we're back. So the GM wanted everyone to use Foundry, but all the players said no because they didn't want to. They were too lazy to learn a new virtual tabletop, and they said, "Why don't we just keep using Roll20 like you have been?" The GM's because I don't like it, and then they got into a big argument, and the GM said, "Fuck you! I'll make my own tabletop with a virtual tabletop with blackjack and hookers," and then he made Owlbear Rodeo. This got out of hand quickly. We're back at Session Sketch. You know that's a real thing, right?
I didn't, but I do now.
That's a virtual tabletop, Owlbear Rodeo.
Why?
Yeah, you haven't heard of this?
No, genuinely no.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I don't know how you've never heard of this one, but yeah.
I don't know. That being said, I don't know, bud. If y'all too lazy to learn Foundry,
don't worry, we're gonna get there.
Roll20 is a functioning website, says in incredible sarcasm, but like Foundry actually kind of busts, and I'm just saying.
All right, hold that thought. It's me and Isaiah. We're back, as you can clearly hear. We're talking virtual tabletops. If you're someone who does not play online, you may not even know what the fuck that is.
Bro, I envy you. That ass. Like,
I don't know if I'd say
you don't have to play with VTM ever.
VTT?
Yeah, there we go. My bad.
Not
Vampire the Masquerade.
No, not Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, okay. If you, all right, maybe I misspoke. Using VTT as like a resource, awesome. But using VTT to play in a session or in person, awesome.
I mean, you say that, but like there are actual pros and cons to using a VTT and playing online. Like one of the biggest pros to playing online, and I don't feel like I ever hear, this is tangentially on topic, I don't feel like I ever hear anyone mention this, but like scheduling is so much easier if you're all playing online because
true.
If you're like, all right, guys, we play at 8 and everything goes cool, I get off work at 7:30, then you're good. You don't have to, But if you get off at work at 7:30 and it takes you a half hour and you need to drive home and feed the cat or some shit before you drive back down to your friend's house to play that makes scheduling harder. So that's one of the big bonuses. Like playing online makes it a lot easier because you just plop down at your computer and you're good to fucking go. Like there is some benefits there. I also think playing online has a benefit of like a certain degree of comfortableness to it in that I'm sitting at my desk with my bullshit and my computer and I have everything set up the way I want and I can...
And I don't have to wear pants.
Sure. And I can fuck around with it on my own. I'm not saying one is better than the other. In fact, actually, I'm saying quite the opposite. I think they both are of equal value and one is not objectively better than the other. And they have very strong pros and cons.
No, look, I'm agreeing with you, but one is not better than the other, but when you use them both at the same time, it's the best.
Well, here's the thing, even using both at the same time, like using the VTT as a tool to keep track of everything, sure, that's all well and good, but you lose out on that scheduling benefit I was just talking about because you're still going to another person's house, right?
Well,
so
the theoretical of like, oh shit, I can't make it tonight in person, guy. Like the Critical Role thing, right? It's like, hey, I'm just gonna Discord in because I gotta feed my cat.
Sure,
I'm not gonna make it in time.
There's some wonkiness with that. I mean, I don't know if you remember on Critical Role, but trying to point the iPad so that Ashley Johnson could see what the fuck was happening. There were some issues there.
True,
It's got some major jank to it. Like it's not like an easy to deal with thing. Like yeah, you could do it, but like it's not gonna necessarily be easy breezy beautiful cover girl.
Wow.
What?
I've never heard you make that reference.
I feel like I've said that before.
You definitely hasn't. The one that causes me the most strife is the comprende papi, but that's about it.
Comprende papi. Yeah, look, the point is playing online versus playing in person, like there's major pros and cons to both. And I mean like playing over Discord or playing in person. There's good and bad and both. Another example is playing online. You could play with people you would have never played with before. You could play with some motherfucker in Italy who speaks English And next thing you know, you get this like whole new perspective on your game because he like has all this information about, you know, some cathedral in his little hometown, and he uses that to inform his character, and you come up with this cool god concept. You know, like there's pros and cons.
True. Very true.
You know, one shit that's awful though, thinking about this, because as both me and you basically do, we pretty much play exclusively online. But I have played exclusively online even longer than you have. I had a player who lived in Arizona. I don't know if you know this or not. Arizona doesn't do daylight savings.
Oh.
So just like halfway through the year, you just have to shift the schedule up for no particular reason because daylight savings.
I was really hoping you were going to bring up the alleyways in Manhattan thing. Just cause.
No, I don't know where that person lived, so no, not relevant in this scenario.
He has to have lived in fucking Manhattan.
Not necessarily. That could just be a thing you know.
I feel like...
In fact, I explicitly think I think he said he doesn't live in the city, in fact, if I remember correctly. You could know that. For a multitude of reasons.
You could, but I feel like that's like a... Oh, you've lived this, haven't you? You've definitely had to walk around 8 blocks because you couldn't cut through an alley to get to Bryant.
I think it was I'm saying this to sound like a smartass kind of thing. I don't think it had anything to do with whether you live there or not.
Potentially.
To throw out the context for anyone listening real quick, I had a game I was running one time, a one shot where I was playing with randos online. It was a game called Urban Shadows that I wanted to try out. I wanted to do like a 3-shot, but we only ended up doing one because fizzled out. Urban Shadows is a modern day fantasy game, so it was taking place in the game sort of default assumes you're in New York City. The characters were in Hell's Kitchen, which is area in Manhattan. I had said, oh, there's like a hidden magical club. To get to it, go through this alley between these two buildings, at which point the player thought it very important to cut me off and say, there's no alleyways in Manhattan. And it was just, it didn't matter. I said, okay, whatever. Anyway, like I completely ignored the statement. It was a completely asinine thing to say, but yeah, he just said it. That's what Isaiah is referring to.
It gets me to think about something being like, you know, actually, because of the property values, we wouldn't really get alleyways. You just got to look at it and be like, bro, really?
Yeah, no, he literally explained. Yeah, you know, he literally explained it too, because he was like, "There's no because real estate is so expensive. There's no alleyways in Manhattan. Every building is built like right next to each other, or was obviously not anymore, but was built right next to each other because there's real estate so expensive because tiny area." I was just like, bro, whatever. And, it's the kind of thing, it's the kind of comment that if it came from somebody I knew, like if Sam said that to me, I'd be like, shut the fuck up, Sam, whatever, But because it was some rando from the internet, I was like, seriously, man, was that necessary? It's just such an asinine statement. Anyway. To segue this, we were playing that Urban Shadows game on Roll20. Let me fill in the back. Okay, virtual tabletops. As I was trying to start this conversation till Isaiah took me down a dark path. If you somehow don't know what virtual tabletops are, a VTT is a virtual tabletop is just a website or program that you run on your computer that emulates a quote unquote table in some fashion that you would play something like D&D on. Generally, it'll contain character sheets. You have maps you can put down. It will roll dice for you. It will do a certain degree of the math for you. The amount of math it will do for you varies based on game, based on virtual tabletop you're using, based on settings, shit like that. The main point, though, is it's an aggregated space that everyone can log into, look at the same time, and see all the same information at the same time. So when Jimbo rolls a d20, gets an 18 on his perception check, everyone else sees the 18 on the perception check show up in like a chat log, or depending on the VTT, it shows up in the middle of the the imaginary board. That sort of shit. You can also use VTTs for board games, as you would imagine, but they're more prominent for role-playing games because usually a virtual version of a board game ends up just being a video game, less than like a virtual tabletop per se. Like you can play Talisman on Steam, but it's not like a virtual tabletop. It's a video game that plays Talisman. It like does everything, does all the hard math, does all the work for you essentially. That's what a VTT is. It's a tool really, or actually it's a set of tools to use to play, whatever system you're running. If you play online at all, you've definitely run into VTTs. Unless you're one of those animals who plays exclusively through Discord, in which point I look at you and go, literally, why? There's so many free options for VTTs that it just seems unnecessary to do the work to set up all the Discord bots and all this other bullshit. Like, just literally why? I've
heard tell of this, and it seems like a nightmare, actually.
It's like using a chat room, to play like a role-playing thing, whether it be sexual or otherwise.
Hey, look, that's, in all fairness, that also seems like a nightmare. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, like, same. But that's what I mean, is like same energy. For tabletop stuff, a lot of people, like, I think there's bots that will link your D&D Beyond to Discord, for example. Like, that's a thing. I assume people who are only using Discord aren't using any battle map stuff. They're doing 100% theater of the mind, There's some concessions and shit. I don't know. It's a thing I've heard people talk about doing and say they do. I find it just like, there's just so many VTT options. It just seems unnecessary at this point. Like obviously using Discord for voice is standard, right? Like we do that because it makes sense. But Discord generally is the most like easy to deal with with voice chats that way, whatever. And Discord does video fine now too, so on and so forth. Although a lot of the VTTs also have video and voice integration, but everyone just ignores it. So I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if any VTTs. Oh God, this is going to be one of those scenarios where you say a word too much and it sounds like nothing anymore.
Yeah, I'm just going to say virtual tabletop because I can already I'm already starting to feel that frustration of having to think of the phrase VTT over and over again.
You saying virtual table, it's just going to make the words virtual tabletop mean nothing instead. Same problem. Anyway, I don't know of anyone who uses the integrated stuff in terms of video and voice for any virtual tabletops usage. So like, there could be one out there that has amazing voice and video, and I feel like nobody would know because everyone just assumes they're bad and never bothers.
I mean,
I just think it's kind of funny. I mean, it's just funny.
It is, yeah.
I mean, like, for example, I know Roll20 probably a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more, recently upgraded their video and voice integration program quite a bit. But I've never bothered to try.
Didn't even know it happened. Like,
yeah. It's
literally who? Literally what? Literally when?
It's one of those things where, this is going to sound like a weird comparison, maybe, but it's the same problem that like a lot of social media platforms have, where the people who run the platforms think to themselves, "Oh, if my platform can do everything, then everyone will come to my platform because they won't need to go anywhere else." But really what ends up happening is everyone goes to the different platforms that they want to go to for whatever that platform does best and just ignores the other features, right? So if you really care about like short form content, you're on TikTok. If you only care about pictures, you're on Instagram. If you want to see what grandma's doing, you're on Facebook. But Facebook has short, reels, and Instagram has reels, but you're still using TikTok. You can make a text post with a photo on Instagram to tell you what grandma's doing, but that's not what you're using it for. It's that kind of a thing. So like, people ignore the voice and video on VTTs because people are like, well, that's not what it was made for, so why? Do you remember
that magical stretch of time where fucking Twitter had, or X, whatever the fuck, had the
Shorts.
live stream. Yeah,
Oh,
like
the
a
live
short
streams.
thing.
Yeah.
No, they still have the live stream, but the shorts. That's what I was talking about. Like,
Oh, yeah. Well, shorts on Twitter doesn't make any. You could just post it as a video. Videos are
post
already
a short video. Yeah,
Yeah. Videos already lit. Like it doesn't. Yeah. There's no.
Yeah, that happened, and everyone said who's man's, and then they took it away like 3 months later. Everyone went,
It's
well,
funny.
you already had it. What was the point of taking it away?
Well, because it does require back end manpower if you want to keep it around and functioning. There is an argument to take it away.
Fair enough.
It's funny too because thinking about it is Mr. Muskrat. One of the reasons he renamed Twitter to X is because he wants to call it X the Everything app, and he's doing exactly what I'm saying. And I mean, good luck there, bud. I don't see it working, but good luck.
Fam, look,
At this point, it's a fun social experiment to watch.
it is, except when it fucks with my ability to look at content, like taking away the quote retweet button.
I know. Anyway,
You're not gonna watch this, Elon Musk, but if you do, you're a bitch and you can suck a dick. I hate that you took my quote retweets away.
that was the final straw for Isaiah.
Bro, do you know how hard it is for me when I see like a really cool Gundam build and I'm like, who made this?
Yep.
And no one credited the fucking the person who kit bashed it, and I'm like, great.
Yep.
Now I have to live in this hell forever.
I get it. Anyway, point being, virtual tabletops, the reason people don't use all of the features in them a lot of the time is because people use the part of the features that it's, people use it for what it's good at. It's that sort of thing. It's that same thing that video games, and this is actually going to tie into what I think Wizards of the Coast is trying to do. But it's in that same way that a video game that tries to do too much shit ends up doing all of it okay, right? And none of it spectacular. Same problem, right? That's the reason I look at games like Starfield and I'm like, I just knew it was going to turn out the way it did.
It's a game that was really focused, that did really well, in my opinion.
What?
It's Armored Core.
Yes. In fact, I would say everything FromSoft makes is exactly that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like all jokes aside, I like.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Because like Armored Core it's like very focused, very specific in what it wants. The game is not super long. It doesn't have an open world. It barely has collectibles. You go in, monkey out, and then leave.
Yep.
Anyway. And it's great. I could play that game 5 times and be like, you know what, this is still fun. I'm just having a good time. It's also a funny robot game. That helps.
Yes. So all of this hootenanny. If it wasn't clear already, this is probably just going to be a rant fest from me because I just have a spew of thoughts that are coming to me about the virtual tabletop space. And now listen, you might say, Josh, where did this spew of thoughts come from?
Josh, where did this spew of thoughts come from?
Well, I'll tell you. D&D Beyond just released a virtual tabletop.
It's funny every time you say it.
That's where the spew of thoughts came from. Now, if you're listening, you may or may not, there's a bit of a saga here. There's a little bit of a story to this. So you may or may not understand why D&D Beyond releasing a virtual tabletop is really fucking weird and confuses me. So I'm gonna regale you with the saga a little bit. So Isaiah, strap in.
My loins have been girded.
It's not that long of a saga. So D&D Beyond, way back in the day, was not even called D&D Beyond originally. It was actually Curse. I don't know if you remember the Curse client, Isaiah. Does that ring any bells? No? Maybe?
What?
Did you not know about this history?
Do you speak truth? I don't.
Yeah.
The Curse client?
Yes. Do you remember that?
Nah, Chief. No, I literally don't. I love how magically edgy that is.
You never heard of it?
No.
Oh. So, Curse was like oh man.
No, the Curse client.
Hold on. It's not.
No.
It's not. So Curse was a. Oh man, I don't even remember. It maybe started as a wiki page, like a Fextra Life kind of thing or something like that. I really don't totally remember. It was used for like MMOs and stuff, like WoW used it for mods, for example, which is why I think I had it. You would use it for World of Warcraft add-ons. You might still, actually. I'm not sure about that. Point being is I don't remember if it was people from D&D Beyond moved over. There's some relation there. I don't know. Whatever. They were a different company. Eventually, they started D&D Beyond as a way to, let you play D&D virtually, as a way to let you have all of your D&D book information virtually, blah, blah, blah. I might actually be getting the company wrong. It might not have been Curse. I don't remember, but that's okay. D&D Beyond originally, and so many people were confused by this in the early days, but D&D Beyond originally was not official Wizards of the Coast as a product in any way. They had nothing to do with Wizards of the Coast. They were called D&D Beyond and were allowed to put all the Wizards of the Coast, all the D&D books on there because of a really good licensing agreement. That's literally it. I don't even remember how they managed to negotiate that licensing agreement as the official platform, but they did somehow. Quite frankly, I'm surprised it wasn't the DM's Guild that managed to do that, but whatever. DM's Guild deals more with PDFs, I guess, is the reason for that. And Wizards of the Coast hates PDFs because reasons. Because they think it helps with piracy. Anyway. So D&D Beyond was never part of WotC, but they had this really strong licensing deal. And then D&D Beyond got so big and so successful, people just assumed Wizards owned it because it was running. A, it was run really well, and B, it was just doing really well. So for a long time, people just assumed they owned it because they were like, oh, well, obviously Wizards of the Coast is putting money into this D&D Beyond thing. They didn't for a very long time. They also did a lot of official videos with Wizards of the Coast. Like, it was a really weird thing. I don't know if you're like.
So yeah, I was around for like the official videos thing and you've been sort of on a roll. But yeah, I for a while I was like, oh, this is just like a Wizards thing.
Yeah,
and I remember having to be told
very explicitly
that no, they just work with Wizards, but then Wizards was buying them at some point, and then that's by the way, that should be like your litmus test for how late I found that out is when they were buying with D&D Beyond, and I had to sit there going, what?
Oh, that's how you found out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I literally sat there being like, I'm literally doing the fucking the what meme with the dude blinking, like
yeah, white guy blinking.
Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh. So you didn't know any either.
No, literally no. Well, because it like you have to think about it, right? Unless you sort of kind of understand how licensing works, like really, which I kind of had to figure out more recently, is they had so much Wizards content.
Yes,
they had
so
like
much
viewable, not really PDFs, but like a viewable virtual format for looking at things. It was super well organized. They had like assets and a homebrew section and like FAQs, and they had a bunch of the Sage Advice Compendium shit. To me, it's like, this seems like entirely too much work for a third party. This seems like it has to be proprietary. And then it wasn't.
I mean, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So I had to, oh, okay. All right, so I just wanted to, I looked this up a little bit because I was, D&D Beyond launched August 15th, 2017, after an initial beta test started in March 2017. Adam Bradford was the project lead, blah, blah, blah. D&D Beyond was developed for 5th edition D&D through a partnership between Curse and Wizards of the Coast. A similar tool set, D&D Insider, had been made for 4th edition by Wizards of the Coast back in the day, but it wasn't updated or supported. I actually used, me and my friends actually used D&D Insider when we played 4th edition back in the day a little bit. December 12th, 2018, Fandom announced that they had acquired all of Curse's LLC media assets, including D&D Beyond. That was the other company I was forgetting. Fandom had them for a while.
God damn. That's okay. Wait, but like,
so yeah, I was right about Curse.
How
though.
much that must have cost.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Fandom is like a big.
So Curse was failing, was the thing.
All of their assets, you have to think. You have to pay for the company's.
I don't think they had that much at that point. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know, but I think they did not have that much. Like I said, this particular part I didn't look into. But anyway, back to closer to, more important. So D&D Beyond wasn't WotC. They just had a really good deal. Basically, WotC had this D&D Insider thing for 4th edition, and they did it really bad. They tried to do D&D Beyond, and they fucking sucked at it. So they just let someone else do it, is pretty much what ended up happening. They didn't want to put... And you got to remember, in the early days of 5th edition, they were like, this is going to be the last edition of 5e, and not because of the reasons that they're saying that nowadays, but because they were like, we don't have any fucking money. This is our last hurrah. That's what they thought of 5e. They were like, this is going to be the last edition, and then D&D is going to run out of money, and that'll be it. So they didn't want to spend the money to do another D&D Insider, right? So they just let D&D Beyond do it. And D&D Beyond, I guess, saw the writing on the wall. I don't know. They saw what was going on and were like, this is something we should invest in, I guess. I don't know how the fuck they were able to put that one together. They were right. More recently, after... I don't remember what spurred the whole situation on exactly, but somewhere in the dark pandemic times, when D&D Beyond or when D&D being played online really exploded, Wizards of the Coast decided they were going to buy D&D Beyond. So they did. So now D&D Beyond is an official Wizards of the Coast product, although you probably wouldn't have even noticed because there's no difference in any of the branding or anything. It looks exactly the same as it did before.
Yeah, I mean, it really do be the D&D devs being like, we don't have to do anything. We just have to throw money at the problem and watch it go away. Like,
WotC said, fuck it. Here's some dollary dues. We're taking over. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. You just give us whatever the, the cut is. So where does this all wrap in with the tabletop or with the virtual tabletop scenario? D&D Beyond never had a virtual tabletop of its own. People would use it to play in person, or people would use D&D Beyond and then use Roll20 at the same time, or Foundry at the same time, or Fantasy Grounds, whatever. And for a long time, people were like, why doesn't D&D Beyond have a tabletop of its own, a virtual tabletop of its own? Well, apparently they were working on it for a while. They just weren't saying anything because I guess, I don't know, maybe it wasn't going well or they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. They just didn't say anything. Then when Wizards bought D&D Beyond, everyone went, oh, maybe they're going to release the tabletop. And the rumor we heard was, no, they told D&D Beyond to kill the tabletop project, the virtual tabletop project. They said, don't do it. That's what we heard. Wizards of the Coast told them specifically, stop, don't do it. And everyone went, why would you tell them that? Well, because Wizards of the Coast wanted to make their own virtual tabletop with blackjack and hookers, otherwise known as built it in the Unreal Engine and it's fully 3D.
Tyler the Creator, so that was a fucking lie meme.
Yeah, right. Well, this is where we're getting to the good part. So D&D, oh god damn it, Wizards of the Coast, not D&D Beyond, Wizards of the Coast, although they're the same thing these days, but wanted to make their own virtual tabletop, and they wanted to make it a fully 3D tabletop that runs an Unreal Engine. That is what they're currently working on right now, and if you pay attention to the D&D space online at all, they recently had a playtest that they gave to some D&D influencers, basically. They also had a playtest at a D&D Summit thing they did this year. So some people have played around with the Wizards of the Coast fully 3D virtual tabletop a little bit. And yes, they are building it in Unreal. So everyone went, oh, okay. So is D&D Beyond working on that 3D thing? No. Totally separate team. You go, what? Well, because it's running an Unreal Engine, they actually got game developers and hired game devs to make this 3D virtual tabletop. So none of the D&D Beyond team is working on it because that's not their thing, which is like, all right, fine, sure, checks out. Fast forward to like 2 days ago, to break the fourth wall. We're recording this on September 20th. I believe it was 2 days ago. D&D Beyond announced they have a virtual tabletop integrated into the D&D Beyond website right now. You can alpha, if you are a master subscriber on D&D Beyond, you can alpha test it right now. And it works, and it is integrated with D&D Beyond. It's rough. Don't get me wrong. Did you look at it, Isaiah, out of random curiosity?
No, I have not. I don't have a master subscription, so I can't.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if you looked up a video or something.
It's
pretty rough and bare bones right now.
I hadn't thought about that.
I literally put a video in the chat. Okay, anyway, it's fine. It's rough and bare bones right now, but it's fully functioning as far as like you could use it to play right now. You know, there will be like probably functionality you're missing. Like one particular weird thing is it doesn't have a grid of any kind right now. It has no snap to grid, no grid function, which is a little weird. It's a little strange.
Yeah, well, I'm not even trying to be like acted up for the camera. That just doesn't seem like a difficult thing to have.
Apparently it's one of those things that seems easy but it's harder than you'd think. Is what I've heard. I don't know. But I have heard, yes, it is one of those things that seems basic, but is a little harder than you would expect. So it's not in there right now, but basically, you know, all of the maps have the grid on them, right? Like the actual JPEG of the map has the grid, but you place the tokens just freely, you know, whatever. It still does the job, you know, like it'll work is the point. So now, astute listener, you might be going, wait a minute. So Wizards of the Coast has a tabletop and D&D Beyond has a tabletop, but Wizards of the Coast owns D&D Beyond and they're making their own virtual tabletop. Why do both exist? At which point I go, that's the fucking question, ain't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean.
And it goes a step further. It goes even weirder is that, so the speed. So this virtual tabletop that D&D Beyond has now came out 2 days ago. And Wizards of the Coast bought D&D Beyond like, I don't know, maybe a year ago at most at this point. Like it hasn't been super long. What that means is those rumors of they have a virtual tabletop ready to go were probably true. So what Wizards of the Coast did was they bought D&D Beyond so that they could have a online platform that was officially theirs. And they said, we're making a virtual tabletop. And they looked at the one that D&D Beyond already had, because if it came out at this point, that means it was basically already done and ready to go in the state that is current. Like it was functioning more or less, or very close to functioning, when Wizards of the Coast bought D&D Beyond. And Wizards of the Coast said, no, D&D Beyond. We're not going to take any money and give it to you to work on that project. We're going to start an entirely new, entirely untested, from the ground up, with entirely new employees, our own virtual tabletop project. And so everyone just assumed that the one that D&D Beyond was working at was just dead and wasn't going to be used for anything. And now they've just randomly released it. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. And it's just, it's very confusing. I don't like.
I mean, yeah. So I want to say, I would hope, right, that they're. The hope is that this is just the one that D&D Beyond has been working on the whole time, and it's not just this random ass new thing, and they flushed all those resources down the toilet.
There's no way.
That's what I want to think.
There's no way there's no way they started from scratch on this. They got it out too fast.
No, yeah, of course not. But like, you do bring up a good point where this seems way too soon, and that other one seems way too late in development for it to seem even like remotely business savvy, I guess is the word I'm looking for, you know?
Well, wait, which one is which? You just hold on. Which one are you?
Like both of them pretty much, like, you have to be like, you know, you're the random third party being like, I know you didn't put this out and throw that away. There's no way. Ain't no way, Chief. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
No. Hold on. You're misunderstanding. The one that Wizards of the Coast is doing is still being worked on.
Oh, wait. No, they've confirmed that it's both coming out simultaneously?
No. The D&D Beyond virtual tabletop, which is a standard 2D virtual tabletop, has been released in alpha right
apologies.
now.
Apologies. Okay, yeah.
The 3D one that Wizards of the Coast is making in Unreal Engine is being built still and is not yet out, but is still being worked on.
I see. Okay. That's all right. That's where I was a little confused.
Yeah. So at some point in time in the future, presumably both will exist simultaneously.
That's almost dumber than scrapping one for the other.
No, there was no scrapping. No, they're both being worked on in tandem with each other. By different teams, of course, but in tandem.
What?
Yeah, now you're seeing why this confuses me, right? Now
Yeah.
So,
there's I suppose there's a universe where they they're working on them separately and then probably plan to integrate them. So maybe you can do it. Oh God, what's the name of the game? Help me out here. Where it's like a top-down. This is a video game. It's like a top-down hex crawler, and then you get into the fight, and then it's its own map, a la like Fire Emblem. You know what I'm talking about? Audience, if you know what I'm talking about, I don't remember the name of it. It's like a fantasy game.
Oh yeah, Age of Wonders.
Yes, and wait, maybe. I think. Hold on, let me look it up.
Age of Wonders, probably. But before you go too far down this rabbit hole, there is more to the story potentially here.
Oh, is there? Yeah. Please regale me.
Well, so I will, but we're going to take a pause here. Uno momento. I say we'll be right back, audience. It'll be instantaneous because of the power of magic and editing.
Fair enough.
Okay, so we return. So yes, Isaiah, you posited an idea, interesting idea. Perhaps the plan is to have the 2D D&D Beyond virtual tabletop integrate with the 3D Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop, right? Perhaps there's going to be some sort of mix and match integration between them. Maybe? Perhaps. But I don't think so, because
it's the only thing that makes me not think of oh look, this is fucking worthless. Like,
well, so the reason I don't know if that's going to be the case, because I said there's more to the story, which is what I'm going to talk about here is what's the Wizards of the Coast 3D virtual tabletop like? Because like I said, a bunch of YouTubers and influencers got to play around with it a bit. So we could talk about what it's like right now. Let me just say up front, this is fucking worthless. That's kind of been my opinion on this whole thing the whole time. I think this 3D virtual tabletop that Wizards of the Coast is doing is like kind of a bad idea. I'm gonna be honest.
Fair.
I don't think it's worth. I don't think the juice is gonna be worth the squeeze. Now I get it. They're looking at it as a huge opportunity for monetization of players, right? That whole statement of players are under, like, D&D is under monetized because players don't buy anything. Mm. They're looking at this 3D virtual tabletop as a way to monetize players, most likely, because something a lot of people have pointed out is, they're totally gonna sell cosmetic affectations for your minis. And they'll probably sell you like spell effects for your character. And they'll probably sell you like pieces that you can use to build your own minis. And like, there's a lot of little microtransaction-y things they can put in this virtual tabletop, potentially. Which, I don't want it, but it probably will happen.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately.
But also, you can do all that shit in a 2D regular virtual tabletop anyway?
Also true.
So, I don't know if the 3D, like, Roll20, people put, like, token art, map art, spell effect art, music, like, people put all sorts of stuff that they charge for on Roll20 right now. So, I think this whole 3D WotC tabletop idea is, like, because the thing is it's a huge investment,
It is absolutely a fucking investment.
Yeah,
like,
to make a whole virtual tabletop in a games engine, it's a big fucking investment. It's one of the big complaints about Tailspire is how much of a fucking investment it is.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, viewers, I don't think you understand, like, how much goes into 3D. How much?
Maybe don't phrase it that way, but yeah.
Well, okay, a lot of people don't know how much goes into 3D.
No,
right?
it's true, they don't.
Like, there's like, you think about like 2D, it's like, oh, well, you just draw it and then it's there and then you sort of work around that. But like 3D, you have to make the thing and then you effectively have to remake the thing, but better, to be able to texture the thing, which you then have to do, and then have to go back and then put the texture back on the thing, make sure it works, make sure there's nothing wrong, go back, redo if anything's wrong with it, come back, try again, keep doing that till it works, and then you're ready to export it, and then you have to make sure it works in engine, and if it doesn't, you have to go back and do all of it all over again. A lot.
Yes, now granted, that's also not talking about particle effects and animations and things like that.
Oh no, I was just talking about purely the modeling aspects.
Like, yeah, no, I know. Well, I'm saying, they're also adding like spell effects and stuff. The model. So let's talk. This is a good transition. Let's talk about how the 3D tabletop is currently looking right now. It doesn't have animated miniatures, right? Which, as me and you both know, of course it doesn't have animated miniatures. That would be a fucking nightmare.
That would be actual insanity.
The amount of time to rig and animate all the monsters and minis and like, no.
Audience, think about this. Joker burning the pile of money. That's literally it.
Yeah, that would be a lot. So, obviously that's not going to happen. And if you're sitting here hoping that D&D or that Wizards of the Coast is going to animate the minis so that they animate like video game characters, there's no fucking way. It's not happening. Do not. There's too much shit in it's not happening. Just trust me. There is a little bit of animation, like when the minis like bonk into each other when you attack, and like little damage dice pop out of them. So there's little stuff like that, but that kind of thing obviously much easier,
Barely an inconvenience.
Well, I don't know if I put it that way, but yeah.
In comparison.
In comparison, sure, yes. But so currently the 3D which is the Coast virtual tabletop, the WTT, what I'm gonna say, the Wizards tabletop, it visually it looks like kind of like Divinity and Baldur's Gate. Visually, it's an Unreal Engine game, so like, yeah, okay. The UI stuff shares some look with Baldur's Gate a little bit, although not in any, like, it shares a look with Baldur's Gate in so much as these are the type of UI decisions you would logically come to in working on a project like this. Like, I don't think they're aping anything from Larian. I think it's just a situation of, yeah, you'd probably put the initiative tracker in that way at the top, and the portraits would, yeah, I mean, it's just like logical game design conclusions, Mm-hmm. It's a fully 3D thing, and so they gave them this pre-made adventure which apparently everyone said the adventure was big sucky. Just sucks balls.
Oh.
Which it was just really basic and boring. You fight some goblins, you fight some kobolds, and then you fight an onkeg at the end, and like a building's on fire at one point, blah, blah, blah. The map and everything is pre-designed. All the minis and the character sheets are pre-designed. They gave you, pre-made characters and everything. No surprise there. You pick up the mini and you move your mini. There's no restriction on how far you can move it, which I think is good. Like, I think adding too many rules and restrictions is a bad idea for this sort of thing, because as I said in our previous recording, the ephemeralness of tabletop is one of its biggest strengths. So you don't want to have too many like weird video gamey-esque rules built in there, because that hurts that ephemeralness, that ability to do shit on the fly. So like, for example, I was watching Nerd Immersion's video, and he was like, if you pick up your mini and move it 30 feet, there's nothing to stop you from picking up and moving it 30 feet again. Like, the system doesn't block movement in any way. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, that's a good thing, right? Because what if you move it and you're like, oh, actually, I don't want to go there? Or if you move it and the GM's like, actually, you know what? Because of some magical bullshit reason, I decided that's not in the rules. You have another 10 feet of movement, or, you don't want to restrict stuff like that. It has no grid at all. There's no grid functionality in this, in the Wizards TTT, in the Wizards TT. The WTT. It doesn't really have like a good in-system character sheet integration, from what I understood from the way people were talking about it. It's all like you roll it on D&D Beyond, and so you kind of need a double monitor setup right now. I assume that will probably change. That would be kind of crazy.
Oh no, it has to. That's like, look, I unfortunately, most people are not huge fucking nerds and have more than one monitor.
Yeah, but most people aren't massive nerds like us. With our, expensive computers
Sam
and double
monitors.
Sam's 3 monitors, and I mean,
Look, I'm not saying I'm the same animal as Sam, but I could really go for a third monitor. I'm just saying.
We're all of a similar cloth. So, what was some other stuff? You pick up and move the mini. It basically just sort of teleports, or you pick it up and move it as if you would on a real actual table. There's some terrain interaction stuff, I guess. I don't know if there was any verticality you could do. I don't think anyone brought that up. It has an initiative tracker at the top. I think it has some spell effects like Magic Missile, for example, and like Burning Hands are in there. Trying to think. It in a lot of ways, it was very, honestly, unremarkable. Like, it
sounds fucking unremarkable.
Yeah, like, it's really basic. And they had a survey at the end, and they asked for stuff like, do you want the ability, do you want a grid? Do you want the ability to drag and drop in your own minis? Like, they asked some really basic shit in the survey of people, which seemed a little weird, but some people were like, oh, they're probably asking this to figure out what they can and can't charge people for, which I'm like, yeah, that might be true.
That probably is true.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah. What it sounds like from the descriptions we're hearing and the little tiny bits of video we do actually have of the 3D tabletop, like you can see the video of the onkeg exploding out of the ground with a special little animation. It sounds like a lot of what they're doing is sort of trying to interpret the table in real life, like kind of literally, right? Because if you think about it in real life, for example, you pick up your mini, you can put it wherever you want, right? It's not actually stuck to the grid. And there's no like restrictions on movement, and there's, the way the minis like move and bonk into each other is similar, it seems like they're maybe trying to emulate the table in the same way that Tabletop Simulator is trying to emulate a table. Which, okay. But like, I guess for me, I just look at this whole project, and I think this is really the crux of it for me. I look at this whole project and I just go, why would I use this? Why am I using this over any other virtual tabletop? You know? Like, it's not really offering me anything other than the D&D Beyond integration, which it only kind of has at the moment. I assume that's going to get more, fleshed out. But now, it's like, already I'm looking at this project and going, why? And now D&D Beyond released their own 2D tabletop, virtual tabletop, and I'm even more so, I'm like, so why? You know? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. The whole thing kind of seems like why, because there's that browser mod that lets you integrate D&D Beyond into Foundry.
Roll20 too.
Yeah, so I look at those and go,
here's the thing, those are not legal though.
No, I know they're not, and this is the thing, right? It's like, I know they're not official. Most people don't care. Like, Foundry, like, I will sing Foundry's praises as much as the, like, initial learning curve can hit you in the balls. It's really fucking good. And I wish that it didn't, like, cost money to use, because I would use it over fucking Roll20 any day of the week.
I mean, it's a one-time buy, though.
There is something else that you got to pay for long-term about it. I don't remember what it is. I think there's a subscription aspect to it.
Last time I checked, it's a single purchase, which is why a lot of people say to use it over Roll20.
I mean, that's even better. But like, it does. There are like, yes, there are some things I don't like about Foundry, but it's so good that I'm willing to put up with some weirdness about it. Versus these new systems that are completely untested. They seem kind of half-baked on the face of it.
Yeah, it almost seems like Wizards doesn't... It seems like Wizards doesn't really know what they're doing with this, I feel like. Like, I don't know I don't understand what their goal is, especially because now that D&D Beyond just released theirs, now I'm even more like, why didn't you just let D&D Beyond do this?
Look, I'm going to be real. I'm not someone who, like, I don't like shitting on Wizards of the Coast. I don't think it gets anywhere particularly, but I have felt like Wizards hasn't known what it's doing for a few years now.
I mean, maybe I'm on like whatever. That's a whole other thing. I'm on like just looking at the context of this conversation. I
mean, like business wise. I don't mean like
yeah.
What they're the content of their fucking like books.
No, I know what you're saying.
Just like the Creator Summit and the fucking oh god, what's it called? The document.
The OGL?
Yeah, the OGL. It just seems like they have no idea what they're doing on a business sense. So it wouldn't surprise me that this is we're just throwing as much shit as we can at the wall and throwing money at the problem until it goes away. Well, oh no, yawning. Fuck.
No. So the throwing money at the wall, I understand. The thing that I'm like, I was confused before, but now with this D&D Beyond situation, I'm triple confused because it's like, this money you're throwing at the wall, why didn't you throw it at D&D Beyond? That's what I'm not understanding. You know what I mean? Because
of course, because it's something that they already paid a shit ton for. It's already had a shit ton of work put into it. You're working on a pretty much 3/4 completed deck at this point.
Well, and the thing that's really weird to me is imagine what a great dick on table moment it would have been if they had purchased D&D Beyond, right? And then 6 months down the road, like they purchased D&D Beyond and they say, guys, we're going to make a virtual tabletop. And everyone goes, okay, WotC's making their own virtual tabletop. And then 6 months down the road, drop this. The thing that D&D Beyond just did, drop it. Boom. Virtual tabletop. It's in alpha right now. Boom, here it is. Like, the turnover time would make it seem like they're way, like, it would make Wizards of the Coast look good. It would make it seem like they're really on top of their shit. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Granted, really what it is D&D Beyond was on top of the shit. But either way, it would just be such a it'd be a great little, the short turnover, I think, would really have helped the hype. In the same way that when Fallout 4 got announced, Bethesda went, and it's coming out in 4 months. See you then. And everyone lost their goddamn minds, Because it's such a short time period that it's you can keep the hype alive for a while. Whereas with this 3D virtual tabletop, it's probably gonna be another 2 years before this is anywhere close to ready to roll. Hype is gonna die. Eventually, people will just not care. And in the meantime, Roll20, Foundry, Tailspire, Fantasy Grounds, fucking Alchemy, all these other virtual tabletops are gonna be trying to eat their lunch. I
don't even honestly, I genuinely don't even think try is the word here. I've seen some back and forth on Alchemy, but I've actually seen it get quite a bit of traction. I think people really like the 8-bit aspect of Alchemy.
Alchemy is not
Roll20 not going anywhere. It's sort of the titan of the industry at the moment.
Alchemy's not 8-bit. What are you talking about, sir?
Is it? No, what am I?
Alchemy tabletop? Alchemy RPG?
Yeah, am I thinking of the other one? There's one that's 8-bit. Or 16-bit. It's got a retro style. Yeah, Alchemy. I'm subbed to the Alchemy. What am I thinking of then?
I don't know. Alchemy's going for a very specific kind of over the top aesthetic kind of vibe to their thing. And sort of utilizing really high quality art and UI work and animation work to sell their bit. I don't know what you're thinking. The thing is, so a lot of the virtual tabletops are trying to cover different corners, right? So Foundry, Roll20, I think is your bit. Okay, I guess I should say this first. I'm very biased. Roll20 is the virtual tabletop I use. It's the only one I've really used. It's the one I'm very familiar with. I've used it basically. Roll20 came out in I forget. I made a Roll20 account in 2014, I believe. Yeah, Roll20 came out in 2012. So I've been using it since its really early days, right? I've been using Roll20 a fucking long time. So I have a lot of investment shit. Oh, sorry, 2015 I made my account. I was a little off. Still, that's the first 3 years. So yeah, I have some bias towards Roll20. Look, for me, I'm not gonna change. I'm gonna continue to use Roll20 for a multitude of reasons. For example, I know it well. I have money invested in Roll20. I have purchased things on there. I know how to use it. There's lots of good forum support for it. They're also doing a big effort because one of the big complaints a lot of people have about Roll20 is, the UI and the functionality is really bad. They're making a huge push to improve all of that in the last 2 years. And they've been slowly rolling out new stuff and improving a lot of that. And they've always been Roll20's always been getting better and been getting lots of work done. So, I'm not on the hate train for it like a lot of people are. I also think Roll20 covers the most games in terms of systems, and as somebody who likes to play a lot of different systems, that's a very high value to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying before. Roll20 is for better or worse.
It's the baseline, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, it's the middle of the road of the VTT industry. It is. Well, it does the most. It has the most shit. It is, in my opinion, honestly, the most user friendly.
Well, I don't know, so I don't think it's the most user friendly. I think so here's the thing.
It's not Foundry, let me tell you.
No, I know it's not Foundry. Roll20 is the most middle of the road on everything. I don't think it does anything particularly better than anyone else, but I think it is a good baseline that everyone else can base off of. So, for example, right? Hold on. So Foundry is your turbo nerd VTT. Foundry is I want ultimate control. I want to be able to do, like, I want to be able to create. Foundry is basically a big modular VTT that anyone can create shit for, that people can plug in to do all sorts of crazy things. Foundry is your Bethesda game, right? Where, like, Bethesda makes the game and then the modders make the real game, right? Mm-hmm. Foundry is the platform, but all the mods and plugins and whatever I forget what they call them in Foundry, but all the shit you add to it, that's the real virtual tabletop. Mm. So Foundry's for your turbo nerds, the people that mod Skyrim so much that it becomes a new video game, right? Or the kind of people that, like, mod the ever-living fuck out of and make their own Minecraft servers, or, like, you know, like, that's what Foundry's for. That's what it does best. User-friendly wise, Foundry is, like, in the fucking dirt. It is.
Yeah.
It's a tall order to get into.
It has a comical barrier of entry.
But a lot of people will say once you get into it, it's super worth it, which is often true of a lot of things, right? Then you go, okay, what are my other options? You have your Fantasy Grounds, which is going for this more user-friendly, but also more importantly, Fantasy Grounds is really trying to be integrated. So Fantasy Grounds has a lot less systems that it offers, because every time they add a game to their library, they really, really integrate it into their system. So, like, the thing about Foundry is, you know, you'll be playing D&D, you'll make an attack roll. I said Foundry, I meant to say Fantasy Grounds. Have I been saying Foundry the entire time when I'm at Fantasy? I don't even know. I confuse these two a lot. Fantasy Grounds. The thing about Fantasy Grounds is, like, you'll be playing D&D and you're like, okay, I attack the kobold. Fantasy Grounds will roll the die, do the math against the AC, and do the health value math, and subtract the health off of the token. It will do all of that for you. Baseline.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what Fantasy Grounds does, a baseline. Because Fantasy Grounds is really working to be a really integrated virtual tabletop, and the developers do a lot of that work on the back end, which is why it has a smaller catalog. So that's kind of its purpose. Owlbear Rodeo, which is funny that Isaiah didn't know about this one, is literally for the person who just wants to jump in and start rolling dice and playing the game as soon and as easily as possible. It has in a lot of ways the least functionality, but it is the simplest to use. It's very basic. You click a few icons, you click a die button, it does everything. Like, it's real straightforward, Owlbear Rodeo. That's kind of its main selling point. We'll see if it sticks that way, because they're adding a lot of stuff, but, you know, that's kind of what they're trying to do, is be the easy to use tabletop. Alchemy is trying to be the, like, goddamn, we're so sexy tabletop. Like, they're really selling, their selling point is on, like, atmosphere and vibe and, like, a cool UI, and, like, they're gonna have cool integrated music, and I think you can, like, buy themes or something like that to, like, go with the, like, so you'll have a bunch of splash images you can use that also goes with some, like, music and stuff. They're trying to be, like, the sexy aesthetic, and their logic is that they kind of want to be because I was watching a video of the developer of one of the devs of Alchemy talking about it. They kind of want to be, like, in addition to your table, but they don't want to replace your table. Like, that's not the point of Alchemy. It's sort of like Alchemy's the program that you use to, you know what? Instead of talking out my ass, why don't I read their little FAQ thing here? Alchemy is a virtual tabletop with a slightly different focus. Whereas most others provide a map and grid as your starting point, we focus on cinematic elements like music, environmental backgrounds, motion overlays, and more. We still have a map and a grid, but we don't think that's the only thing that players want to look at for hours during a session. So, like I said, they're trying to be, like, aesthetic. Right? That's really their focus. Mm. The point I'm getting at here with all this fucking rambling. All of these virtual tabletops are trying to cover, like, their niche, right? Uh-huh. What the fuck is the Wizards of the Coast one trying to do?
I mean, if I was to make a guess, right?
And
just a wild shot in the dark.
Wait, because this is worth mentioning. Because someone say, well, isn't the 3D thing the selling point? No, because Tailspire does that. Tailspire already exists. Mm-hmm. And Tailspire is way farther along and way more usable. Oh, actually, correction, it's usable, period. Like, you could use Tailspire right now.
So the thing that I'm thinking that they're sort of like corner of the niche market is most likely going to be their damn near live service update ability, right? If a new UA drops, you will know. If a new thing happens, you will know, because they are going to have to put that in there along with whatever's going on. If there's any, like, and with that, right, we don't necessarily need stuff like Sage Advice Compendium to be like a mail order thing now, or like a sort of virtual magazine. It'll just be in the new VTT in an update log.
So, I hear you, and I would have agreed 3 days ago.
Oh,
until D&D Beyond released their virtual tabletop, because all of that selling point that you were just saying, the D&D Beyond virtual tabletop could also do, and actually arguably could do better, because it's already integrated into D&D Beyond, like, more completely. Yeah, you see my you see what I mean? Because I was watching, because Nerd Immersion this is how I found out about it. Nerd Immersion did a video on the D&D Beyond tabletop that just dropped in alpha. They're calling it D&D Beyond Maps, by the way. And he was testing it. He was like, okay, how integrated is this into D&D Beyond's, already existing systems? And the answer is, like, almost completely. Because, like, so you know how D&D Beyond has the encounter builder? The encounter builder is fully integrated and works 100% with D&D Beyond maps already. Which Wizards of the Coast one doesn't. Right?
Uh-huh.
It also is already integrated with all of the adventures on D&D Beyond. So right now you can use, not all, I shouldn't say all, but you can use Lost Mine of Phandelver, Frozen Sick, and Prisoner 13. You can do all of them right now. Like, click a button and it's ready to go on D&D Beyond. You just need the Master Tier subscription. And also, by the way, only the GM needs the Master Tier subscription. So, yeah.
Then I really got no answer for you, because
right?
This is kind of what I said before, right? I mean? This just seems like
it doesn't make
Joker
sense.
Burning money. Yeah, which further leads into me being like, Wizards, what the fuck are you doing?
I know. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm so, like, here's the thing. When Wizards of the Coast said they were doing their own virtual tabletop, I was already like, that's a questionable move. When they then further explained it was going to be a fully 3D tabletop, I went, oh, I'm not a fan of that for a whole bunch of basically, I'm not a fan of it because a 3D tabletop is way more complicated in the back end, is the easiest way to put it. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, also, we're building it in Unreal from scratch with a new team from all those game dev listings that you said that, because, a lot of people saw before it was announced that they were hiring game devs on the Wizards of the Coast website. Like, they were like, we're hiring, right? Mm-hmm. And people assumed this is what it was for. And they're like, yeah, this is what it's for. So it's like, all of those things. I was like, what are you doing? Why? And now this D&D Beyond drops this. And I'm just like, quadruple why? and the D&D Beyond maps thing has a roadmap already, right now. We are excited to continue improving our new maps experience as we learn and create an amazing play experience. Below are the features we're actively building and will introduce as additional functionality as soon as it's available. Tool improvements, a pointer tool and a draw tool. Token enhancements, in-play token options, improved user experience for finding and adding tokens. Game session functionality, implementing session controls connected to a player's menu. User controls, a polygon option for the Fog of War. Oh yeah, it has like a you can draw the Fog of War out by hand. It doesn't have to necessarily be with like polygons the way Roll20 does it, which is interesting. Game log, high contrast mode, and user interface themes, more token options, measuring tools, a ping tool, overall UX improvement. Like, they have a roadmap of a bunch of crap they're gonna do. Interesting, a grid is not on there. But yeah, like hide, reveal, rename, adding game data, like all this stuff. And then the Wizards of the Coast one, we don't know. We have no clue what they're doing. Like, they haven't said what the plan is. That's the other thing. They have not said what the plan is for this 3D tabletop that Wizards of the Coast is doing. Like, they haven't given a roadmap or a time frame or anything. So, like, you know, and granted, I get it, right? It's early on in development. So they're probably like, we don't have a roadmap, which is like, fine. Why did you announce it then? You know? Like,
yeah, I mean, this it seems, I don't know what else to say other than this seems half-baked and a very bad idea at best.
I don't listen, we're not.
It could not be. Look, there's every chance that this was like super thought out. They had a plan. You know, maybe things just coincided kind of weirdly, but on the face of it, you have to admit this seems kind of goofy. Like,
like, and you're right. We're not, obviously, we're not in the Wizards offices. We're not business people. You know, we're not marketers. So, like, there may be a grand master plan here that we don't understand. Totally possible. But yeah, like you just said, on the face of it, it's looking more and more like just a big question mark. And on top of all of that, right? The influencers who got to play around with it, their overwhelming reaction was, it's alright. That was like the response from everyone. It's alright.
That seems to be the overwhelming reaction with most of the things that Wizards puts out nowadays, which hurts me greatly.
Yeah. Like, it's like, that's what I saw from basically everyone. It's
do you remember?
It does the job.
Do you remember? You think about back in bad day when they initially put out like the extra class features thing back in fucking, I don't know, 2017, 2018, like 2019 actually, and everybody was like, yeah,
yeah.
Remember the good old days? I do. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the books and stuff that have been coming out feel kind of. But, you know, actually, I will say, to give them credit, you know, credit where it's due. The Giants book, the monsters in there are pretty sick, actually. There's some pretty fun ideas and like different ideas in that book. Sorry. One example, a couple of the giants have a trinket or a mask or something like that while they're wearing it, it gives them extra abilities in their stat block. And it actually has... kind of
like a hag.
Maybe? What do you mean?
Yeah, when hags are in their dwelling with their, like, other hag coven mates.
Oh,
they have
sort of, but it's like an item, and it has its own HP and AC and everything, and you can destroy it.
Oh, interesting.
And they will actually lose access to stuff if you destroy it. Yeah. So, like, you know, there's some other stuff in there that seems pretty cool. But the point is, like, they're doing some interesting little, like, oh, that's okay. And that some of the magic items I remember seemed kind of interesting too. You know, like there's some stuff going on there. Granted, one of the designers on the Bigby's book, if I remember correctly, was involved in making the 3rd edition Draconomicon.
Oh, okay. That's pretty sick.
Yeah. So
that is sort of like,
you know,
widely considered to be the best D&D
one of the
book
best
ever.
books. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. This virtual tabletop, this 3D one that they're doing, I like the WTT, as I've been calling it, as I'm going to continue to call it now. It like, yeah, it just like, I don't know how else to put it. It seems like a bad idea at this point.
It seems like what the kids refer to as a massive L across the board.
Yeah. You know, it's fun, and a lot of people even said, as a virtual tabletop, not only is it like whatever, it's actively bad. Like, a lot of people said it's actively bad because it's so lacking in features, which again, I understand. It's early on in its development, to which point I say again, then why did you let people look at it? Right?
Yeah, that does seem like big dubs. Like why?
It seems weird. To which point I go, there has to be a reason. And currently the reason I'm leaning on is to see what they could charge people for.
That,
you know?
Okay, so like, yeah, that does seem...
It kind of, it's where my brain's
annoyingly
turning.
money grubby, but like, it seems very modern Hasbro-led Wizards.
Yeah. Like, I can't really, like... I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know what other conclusion to come to, really. At least not right now, unless until we get more information. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? You know, in a year from now, we could get a big update on that tabletop and we revisit this episode and I was totally wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But right now, yeah, this is how I'm feeling. Like, I don't get it. And I was already not getting it. And then D&D Beyond slapped their dick on the table with this whole maps thing. And I'm just getting it even less, to the point where it's like, okay, well, here we are.
Like, here's the thing, right? I get D&D Beyond making their own VTT. It makes a lot of sense for them to do it.
It makes sense for them to do it.
The fucking books.
It makes sense for them to do it if they weren't owned by Wizards.
Well,
right?
even
like,
if they were, right? Like, if Wizards was doing it through them,
yes, through them would make sense.
You'd get like the most up-to-date information. You wouldn't have to wait for patch time. You could just every week they could just drop something and be like, hey, try this. And you wouldn't have to worry about shit like setup with like a modern day game when they drop modern UA, because then you're like, okay, hold on, you gotta make a new character sheet, do this, do that. It's like, here, loads new character sheet file, make it, play it, don't do it anymore, or keep playing. Yeah. Like
there's an update button on your character sheet that just updates it to the new errata rules.
Yeah, there's like infinite ease of access if Wizards was doing it through D&D Beyond, but they're not. They're doing it in tandem.
Well, they are. So
they are, and they're doing it in tandem. Like, it's both.
It's both, right? Because the 3D tabletop, the WTT, is going to be utilizing D&D Beyond. We know it is. It does a little, like I said, the character sheets that the playtesters used were D&D Beyond character sheets. So, like, it is utilizing it, but it's going to be a lot more work to get this 3D virtual tabletop to integrate with D&D Beyond than it is to have the one that's already built into D&D Beyond be integrated. You know what I mean?
I think you missed the key component. More work than it's likely worth.
Yeah,
that's really the thing.
I don't know. Like, more work, period. More work than it's worth. I don't know. Like, that's a more subjective thing, but like, yeah, maybe. Maybe. It's I don't know. Like, there's a little part of me that's like, are they gonna cancel the 3D? Is the WTT dead? You know? Like, there's a little part of me that had that thought. But there's no way, right? Like, there's no way. they're putting too much money into it. They can't just say fuck it, right? Like that'd be insane.
That would be wild,
right? Like, because yeah, it like, like I don't know, because if that's what happens, like I'm just gonna laugh my ass off. Like I don't even know, man. That would be crazy. You know?
Yeah, you just sort of sit there being like, what?
I don't know.
What was
any of this for?
Yeah, it's like, oh, and what did it cost you? Everything. Like,
I just. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. I will make the statement now. I'm personally really interested in seeing where this goes because I think VTTs in general are a very interesting thing, and I think they're super cool and useful for obvious reasons because I use them a whole bunch. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. So if there's any big new update that happens, I'm gonna be on that shit. We'll talk about it because it's too fun of a saga at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna rely on you for that because I take
That's
a very
fine.
I take a very Mikazuki August perspective on this. Is like, I don't know what I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. All I know is I must kill. So like,
yeah, that's fine. I mean, but it's just, it's just, I gotta, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep up with it in some fashion for sure. Sorry, I just like 8 thoughts just flew through my brain, and the sentence just completely fell apart. But yes, I'm gonna keep up with it.
I'm just thinking about this in terms of memes because right now I'm at the John Travolta in Pulp Fiction when he's looking around.
Meme. Yes, no, that's me. That's me, right? Yes, John Travolta looking around. That is me right now. I'm just like, huh? What? Huh?
What are we doing? What is this? Why?
I got the coat. I got the coat on one arm. I got the ponytail, and I'm just arms out, like, huh? Who?
And unfortunately, there's no Uma Thurman at the end of this tunnel. Like,
no. I mean, maybe,
unlikely, but
unlikely.
Maybe. Yeah.
Look, like I said, I already decided I'm not gonna change what VTT I'm using unless there is a like.
How very Matt of you. Well, nope, burying my head in the sand. This is my VTT and I ain't changing. Like, not getting out of this chair.
What I mean is, like, I'm not. I will change what I'm using if there's a really, really good reason, you know. But right now, the one I'm using does what I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have no reason to change. It's doing what I want, and it's still active and alive very active and alive. And also, I've been liking, actually, speaking of the changes Roll20 is making, I've been liking a lot of the UI changes they've been doing. They're quite good, you know?
Yeah, the cone line and ruler thing is like a massive boom.
Yeah, that's a huge one. The way they reworked their lighting system like a year ago. The whole new look of the UI, that left side toolbar is nice. You know, they're doing a lot of shit that I'm like, yeah.
Oh, did you see they bought? They bought Dungeonscape?
They did, yeah. So that's another thing that's gonna be super cool. It's gonna take a while. They have said it's gonna take a while to like properly integrate it, but that is a goal. So, yeah.
God, that's another one where it's like, they bought Dungeonscape. What the fuck is the point of anything else now? Yeah. Not anything else, but like I'm being, hyperbolic, but like, I can literally make dungeons in the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've used Dungeonscape. It's not the most intuitive, but its barrier of entry is fucking leagues smaller than Foundry's.
Yeah. I mean, I've played around with it a little bit, so yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. But like, yeah. And meanwhile, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I mean, what you gonna do, Wizards of the Coast? Show your hand. They also recently integrated with DM's Guild. Remember that?
Did, yeah.
Whole thing? Yeah, that's what I mean. So like,
this is kind of what I'm saying, right? They really are the titan of the industry.
In terms of VTTs, yeah, they're the biggest one for sure. which of course means they get the most hate. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I mean, they're the biggest, they're the most efficient. They have the farthest reach by a country fucking mile.
Yes. So, balls in your court, Wizards. Right?
Yeah.
So I do want to just posit this. Actually, one last thing. I would be also willing to, I will use a different VTT if someone is running a game for me and they say, hey, we're using this instead. Fine. You know what I mean? I will do that. I'm not the kind of player who's going to be a whiny bitch about having to learn a new, tabletop to use. I don't care. You know what I mean? So if someone's hey, we're going to use alchemy. Okay, cool. So that's another scenario where I would do it. The question I posit here now is, let's say you have the ultimate power. What would you even want out of a new virtual tabletop? Let's go with the Wizards one for the sake of staying kind of, in a certain realm. What would you even want them to have? What would they have to do to convert you?
I would basically need a user-friendly, don't put too much work into it, Larian Studios. I would need Baldur's Gate, but kit bashable, Make your own characters, do what you want. Obviously there wouldn't be dialogue boxes and shit like that. That's not really what I'm talking about, but being able to drag and drop things to make a massive, intuitive dungeon system.
So, a big
I need a bitchin' character creator and a big cell for fucking drag and drop intuitive dungeons.
A dungeon creator with the 3D assets would be a huge selling point.
Yes.
That would be a worthy of going over.
Yes, but it would need a lot. It would need random generators. It would need the ability to fine tune things. Maybe some templates that you can run through different seeds to give you some different results. Shit like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I know what I'm asking for is unfair. I get it, but that's kind of the point.
Well, is it unfair? Here's the thing. Wizards of the Coast is the biggest tabletop in the admittably small niche that is the tabletop space, right? D&D feels very big these days, but we're still it's a very niche hobby. In our little corner of the universe, Wizards of the Coast is the biggest company. So expecting them to do the most spectacular stuff, not really that unreasonable,
Yeah.
So you being I'm asking for a lot. It's are you though? Because they would, if any company is going to have the resources, they would have the resources to do it. Especially because I believe Tailspire is already doing this stuff or trying to. I haven't looked at Tailspire much myself, I'll admit. So I don't know exactly what Tailspire or how it works, but I know it is a fully 3D tabletop in the same sense. And I believe they do try to have building tools. So it's if they can do it, Wizards of the Coast, absolutely. Because here's the thing. Wizards of the Coast, as a company, they are looking at the situation and are we need to have a reason for someone to use our tabletop over the other ones. You need to have a selling point. So it's yeah. You saying, all right, well then I think put all your resources towards a really bitchin' 3D map creating system that's intuitive and doesn't require me to have basic programming skills to use. Yeah, that's I think that's a pretty reasonable ask. And quite frankly, yeah, I think that's probably what they would need to do for me to bother using it also. Yeah, I think that would have to be it. I think you're right. Because, you're not going to sell me on your tabletop tools, because other systems already do that. You're not going to sell me on how good your measuring and AoE tools are. You're not going to sell me on how good the character sheet works. You're not going to sell me on like integrated music because other platforms do all that. You're not going to sell me on the visuals probably because it sounds like a lot of, there's other companies trying to do that better as their focus. So, yeah, I mean, cool map builder and cool mini builder like a Hero Forge in there. Oh my God. Could you imagine if they bought Hero Forge? Okay, weird little technical difficulty there. What were you saying, Isaiah? Or what did you say?
Just, to summarize, you would need something like Hero Forge level of customization, all the stuff that I was talking about, like an Alarian style. Yeah. It would have to it would have to be so good as to be unfair to everyone else. It would have to take it by storm for me to even consider switching off something like Roll20. And even if I did switch off Roll20, it'd still be Foundry.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it has to be way better in every way, just to even consider. But I think what it has to do is do a particular thing way better than anyone else. And I think you're right. I think that, having really good map building tools and like an amazing Hero Forge style character building tool, that I think would be like a super valid selling point, and a selling point that you could lean into. Like that could be your thing. Like this is why you use the Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop. Totally, yeah. Dang, what was my other? Crap, I lost my other sentence.
I don't know.
But yes, yeah, I yeah. It's gotta, because you can't just do what everyone else is doing already, because you're really just not gonna get anywhere with that. Because Wizards is so late to the game, right? Like they're so late to the virtual tabletop game at this point that you gotta have the big selling point.
Yeah, no, you can't you definitely can't try to break into a niche without having your thing.
Yeah.
And if your thing is that you're just the official thing rather than
they just
the
bank
most convenient. Yeah,
they just bank on being the official one. That'd be kind of funny.
We've seen shit like that in the past though, and it just never fucking goes well. Like, no, it's just sad to watch. Really,
it's like being the official thing doesn't matter if it's shit. Man, what a flex it would be if they bought Hero Forge though.
That'd be amazing. Honestly,
and if they fully integrated Hero Forge with their tabletop, that'd be crazy.
I would love that, because that would give me a reason to have I don't know, like 130 Hero Forge models. Yeah, I was gonna say do
something with all your characters.
Yeah, just a ludicrous amount. Maybe put like more shit into Hero Forge, like a mecha builder. That'd be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, your answer was basically the same as mine in terms of what it would take to get me over.
You'd have to look and go, that's wild.
Yeah. Big cool dungeon, big cool map building, 3D asset based map building tool, and yeah, character building tool. That would have to be the thing. And it's a bit of that is a bit of a steep ask, right? Like as you said early on in this whole talk, it's a lot of work to make 3D models. And so this would require them to make a shitload of 3D models. But you know what else they could do is charge you for all those 3D models.
They could, yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of a big ask, but hey, here's $5 for, or Ogre Mega Mars multi-rock pack of a bazillion jillions, and it's just a shitload of 3D models of rocks. It's like, yeah, go for it, homie. I mean, Roll20 literally does this just with 2D assets instead of 3D,
Mm-hmm.
And also, you can open it up to third-party creators the same way that Roll20 does. So Steve Jimbo Bimbo can make a huge map pack of 3D asset rocks that he sells on your virtual tabletop storefront, and then Wizards takes a cut.
Actually, okay, you know what? You know what would be my one guarantee, like, I would absolutely switch over?
Oh.
If you could, this is insane, right? But thanks to the power of our AI overlords. If you could, for example, maybe, like, scan a picture, like, from off Pinterest or wherever the fuck, like let's be nice and say that you assume, like, that you bought it from, like, GM's Guild, right?
Right.
And it could, like, scan it and replicate it in, like, not 3D exactly, but, like,
make, like,
using something like bump mapping, to, like, replicate like 3D. Yeah.
That would be
if it could
crazy.
do that, absolutely, I'll pay for it.
As I said, sold, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Whew. Interesting little. I said that word too many times, but this is a fascinating scenario, if nothing else. Fascinating.
It is going to see fascinating on how it either sinks or swims.
Yeah.
And you really have to say sinks like a lead sail. Like.
Yeah. Well, you know what else is funny is there's so many other questions I have about this whole thing that's not even necessarily about the functionality of the tabletop itself. Like, are they going to charge you for it? Is it going to be part of the D&D Beyond subscription? Are they going to let third-party people make shit on it? Is it going to be in a browser? Is it going to be a program that you have to download from a certain platform? How well is it going to run? A lot of people are really worried about performance because it's this big fancy thing in Unreal Engine 4 or 4 or 5. And it's like, a lot of D&D nerds don't have souped up computers. Like, obviously, there's a big overlap between D&D nerds and video game nerds like us, but there are a lot of D&D nerds who just play tabletop and they don't have a big fancy computer, or they're old men who don't need a fancy computer. It's a 60-year-old guy who's been playing D&D since 2nd edition. He doesn't need a fancy computer, so he doesn't have one, so he's not going to be able to use this damn thing. You know what I mean? Like, so many questions. I will say they claim, and I guess this is one of their hypothetical selling points, but I'm not confident in this one. They claim it's going to work on tablet and phone.
Lamau. All right.
I don't know, man. That's what they said. They said that's one of their target, like, one of the few development goals they've been very firm about is it will work on a tablet and a phone. That's what they said.
As John Mulaney once said, that's what I said no, like a liar.
Like a liar. And yeah, now granted, the like alpha test thing that just came out did not have phone or tablet as an option. So presumably, that's not a thing yet, but that's what they said.
Imagine my surprise that's probably going to be one of the last things that drops, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. That could, because doing something like that is entirely optimization, right? And optimization is basically always the last thing in the pipeline. So, yeah.
So, it's a big doubt, homeboy.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't doubt it'll happen. Like, they'll probably do it. I don't know how well it's going to work is the thing, Like, it will, I'm sure it will exist. Will it work well? That's the question. We shall see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I think that's enough ranting for now.
Fair enough.
I was just so fired up by the D&D Beyond maps announcement that I was just like, I just need to talk. There's so many facets to it, So, anyway, that's been us. I once again forgot to do the thing at the beginning with the thing, so I'm going to do it now. Please hit follow or subscribe on your podcast platform of choice that you are currently listening on. Thank you. And at least for the time being, if you would like, you can follow us on Twitter. We'll see how long that lasts, because I ain't paying for that shit.
Yeah, nah, Chief. That's a whole lot of nah, Chief. I'm not doing it.
So, yeah.
Look, here's the bonus, right? If Twitter's going down, just say the most out-of-pocket shit you can think of. Make yourself look like a war criminal, because it's not going to be around much longer.
I mean, it will. Just because even if the website goes down, the archive data is still there.
Yeah, but like no one's going to check the archive data to say if you sound like a war criminal or not. Like, they might, but like unlikely.
I mean, sure, but also it's not that Twitter's disappearing. It's just that they might be charging to use the site. So
yeah, but like the amount of people who are going to leave, the amount of ad revenue they're going to lose.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get into the Twitter thing, but we'll see.
To quote a great YouTuber, it ain't a war crime if it's the first time.
Sure. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.